Namaste. Oh, I'm so glad to be with you for another episode. And I know you're in for a treat today. I can just feel it. I've just been chatting with our guest today, and I know it's going to be awesome. So let me, without further ado, introduce you to Cindy James. She helps deeply caring people get unshakable confidence in themselves so that they can attract and master gobs of money and oodles of power without compromise and with the full support of the divine forces of creation. She's a former top corporate litigation attorney, but now she says that she is a practitioner of universal law as opposed to man-made law. And I love that. So first off, I want to just welcome you, Cindy, to Live, Love, Engage.
Thank you, Gloria. It is truly a privilege and an honor to be in this present moment with you and with everyone who is receiving this.
Hmm. Well, I'm so intrigued by, I love meeting people, especially people who've sort of gone through a journey, and it looks like you have certainly been on a journey, having one lifetime, shall we say, as a corporate litigator, and now you're doing more energy healing work. You're also a podcaster, which I did not mention, but you have your own podcast, and maybe we could chat about that a little bit later as well. But really being in this more of a uh, energetic, spiritual type of space. So I would love it if you would share with our listeners and also those watching on YouTube a little bit about about that journey. What kind of led you to make that shift?
Oh, I love talking about this. Thank you, Gloria. I remember being about 7 years old and Godspell had just come out. And my dad sung in the choir. I was born and raised Catholic, and I still feel that I'm Catholic. It's like it means universal. I'm like Catholic
Right.
plus. And and I loved it. It was a progressive mass and it was guitar songs and then Godspell came out and then I heard Day by Day.
Mhm.
And my right now I say I'm having a crown gasm. Like when the energy is really big, I get all this tingles and it comes through and it just like so big right now. I love that I can talk like that in my and with someone like you and with your listeners because I know they're very high vibrational, like meaning just really deeply caring, open people. And so I started singing day by day to myself and I felt amazing. And I had two younger brothers. My younger sister was a baby, so she didn't play in the neighborhood. And I just played with a lot of boys. And I mean, classic female role. I was the one sweeping up the fort or the tree house or whatever it was. I still do like that. I inhabit my feminine ability to create space. And I remember sweeping the treehouse in our friend's backyard and singing day by day over and over again. And I think I got into some sort of ecstatic trance. A 7-year-old didn't know that. And I was like, this feels amazing. And I called my brothers and the friends. I'm like, come here, I got a great new game. And I said, okay, this is how you do it. You just sing like the chorus of day by day,
Right.
dear Lord, three things I pray. And after like 2 or 3 rounds of it, my younger brother, Stephen, who has since skedaddled to the other side because I don't believe in death, it's just a change in state. He like because like this game is stupid. It's not fun. Like, let's go like hit the ball or something like that. And I was, wow, how are they not feeling this immense pleasure and freedom and joy? And so that's little Cindy Lou Who. And I loved singing to Mary in the May procession, and I loved confirmation. Like we are the light of the world. Yes. Like what? I can receive the Holy Spirit and be able to talk to people and be a messenger of God in my maturity of love and light. I'm like, I was so much about that. And my experience with Catholicism was lovely, and it was also not lovely. And I think the Catholics, this is my demographic, but like we have such longing and then we just kill it.
Yeah.
It's like we're so close and then it's dead. It's like
Mhm.
you are the light of the world, but don't you get too full of yourself. Like, and God is real, but we have to worry. We
Mhm.
cannot faith, we worry. We worry. Worry means love. And so that was always in my upbringing. I was blessed by God with a super great intellect. So I was top of my class at everything. And that's just the way it was, and including in law school and law review, and I was wined and dined by the big firms in Philadelphia, which is where I lived at the time. And I chose a firm that I thought like had a soul, because I was still always longing to know, what is God? What are miracles? What is happiness? What is healing? And that's the kind of stuff I occupied my mind and my entertainment with: movies about life after death, all that kind of stuff. And then when I became pregnant with my fourth of four children, it was the result of an energy healing, a free energy healing at my chiropractor's office. They're dear friends. I've now facilitated birthing and godchildren to them. And I was told that that baby was going to die in utero, that I should abort the baby at 22 weeks. And it was the only morally responsible thing to do. And mother bear. I mean, I'm wiping the jelly off my belly with this, high risk perinatologist.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, what is the medical opinion? I said, am I in danger by bringing this baby to term? And he said, no, but the only rational, I said,
Yeah.
save your moral opinions for your people. And then it was going to Children's Hospital Philadelphia every week. It was ultrasounds, it was blood tests. And my now ex-husband, but the husband at the time, was just asking, is there any way this can be a mistake? No, major organ malformation. And when he was born, or was put on antibiotics right away, and at 3 days went down to Children's Hospital for major surgery. They said if he were to survive, he would need major organ reconstruction. And I mean, my milk has just come in. I'm feverish. It's my fourth baby. So, it's like a bloody massacre. I talk like this still. And doing tests that, still I think I need some healing about watching this baby go through. And this doctor came out and he said, I remember with a Russian accent, why is this baby here? And in tears, I mean, I'm crying in a wheelchair trying to nurse him. And I just said all of the things. And he said, your baby's perfectly healthy. Take him home.
Hmm.
And I decided at that moment that every gift that I was given of intellect, of speech, of research, of strength, of, chutzpah, character, of rebellious and dignified and mother bear, was going to be channeled in my free time to learning about how miracles really happen. And one of the lineages that I'm a practitioner of is pranic healing. And I love this quote. It goes something like this: miracles are not fantastical events that operate outside the laws of nature. They utilize the hidden laws most people are unaware of.
Ooh, I
And
like that.
so, isn't that beautiful? So there
Yeah.
it is, like universal lawyer, practical lawyer. I'm grateful for that training every day. I mean, I always say there's a cast of characters that, that a jury and a judge needed to debate about.
Yeah.
I recently listened to your True North podcast,
Mhm.
and I felt that so deeply in my soul, and resonated on so many levels. And it's beautiful to have the opportunity to come to True North, which is how it is to live the most healthy, happy, harmonious, joyful life, plus, and then share that with others. To
Mhm.
enjoy life and share it, that's just like the only game in town. And I do believe it's what's going to bring us. I mean, if the hope for humanity is
Yeah.
dissolving unnecessary suffering and these hidden laws, which are just always there, whether you believe in it or not, and move forward. So
Mm.
that's how I got from trial lawyer to universal lawyer. And I've studied everything, the brain on everything.
Yeah.
If I could be a master in it, poof. I mean, thank you, Lord. There's a quote that says, it's one of my favorite quotes, and I wrote it down because I specifically felt it for today with
Yeah.
you in this session. And it's from St. Paul to the Corinthians. I love when you post scripture, and having had that brain, I've read the Bible twice, as well as, many other things.
Yeah.
But I read this quote, and this is the translation of it in a book called Opening to Abundance, which was a compilation of lectures from a body of wisdom called Pathwork.
Mm.
And this was about what it is to have abundance. And this was one of the days meditation in the 30-day process. And it was this quote from St. Paul to the Corinthians: what do you possess that was not a gift from the Creator? Then why do you boast as if it were yours? And I can tell you that was used as a young Catholic to, like, don't you get too full of yourself, don't you, whatever, that and all of that about shame and humiliation and holding yourself back. But
Right.
I read that, and certainly the interpretation in that book is like, look what God made, or Great Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Baba, Science, and like all the different names
Right.
of higher power. Look. And when I don't own it as my precious, like Gollum, when
Mhm.
I own it as like, yes, I'm a living emanation of the oneness. I'm not boasting as if I were mine. I'm saying, yet it's yours too, and praises be. And then the energy of abundance and
Mhm.
supply. Then it's not squeezing it off so you're not too big for your britches and she doesn't get too full of herself. And who does she think that she is?
Yeah,
I think I'm a child of God, and I think you are too. And let's play. Isn't that what we do when we stop forgetting that we're separate? We get to play.
absolutely.
So that's my kind
I
of
love it. And see, I see, I knew we absolutely are kindred spirits because and in fact, I was actually I was on a podcast yesterday having a wonderful discussion about spirituality and also about being raised Catholic and things. And I at one point it was like because she was asking, did you feel close to God as a kid? And I was like, well, I don't know, I didn't really exactly pray, but then it was like, oh, duh, singing. Singing. Singing was how I connected to God, and I even was in, choirs when I was older and things like that, and it was like and especially all the songs that I really resonated with have light in the title or in the verses and things, and it's all about, we are the light of the world, I wanna walk as a child of the light. All of these things were like, "Oh, just, yes." And day by day I was actually listening to the Godspell soundtrack not too long ago. Seriously, a few weeks ago. So, yeah,
I
it's such a
love
great
those
thing.
songs.
So, yeah.
I will listen to it and walk. There's no chance that I can't be inspired to walk at least 3 miles while bouncing and dancing,
Oh,
listening to
yeah.
Gospel.
Yeah.
Also Jason Mraz and Pink and, like other
Yeah, yeah,
artists
well,
too.
yeah.
There's many ways to sing to God, but that I love that, and I
Yeah.
love the songs of light, and I love listening to you singing in light language. That is right, just right up my universal alley.
Well, yeah, I've enjoyed it too, and it's, yeah, it's just this very cool way to be able to sing, because I haven't been in a choir for years, and it's like, now I have this wonderful gift to share, and it's great, and again, I love how you said too, it's like that quote from St. Paul, it's like, let's focus on the first part of that because that really is the important part of, yeah, all these wonderful gifts that we have, and yeah, and I thank God every day for all of the wonderful things I have, and I think that's how you get more is by expressing gratitude. Um, so I want to talk about a little bit more about because I love in your bio, and I know you also have this lovely Facebook group as well that I've recently joined, where it talks about mastering. I love this phrase: "Gobs of money and oodles of power." So, so walk me through a little bit about even just that why you chose that phrase, maybe even what it means to you, and how we can kind of really um, attract that for ourselves.
Oh, God bless us, everyone, or universe, great spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Baba, Science, bless us, everyone. I think like Mary Poppins, just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, or you make the job a game and snap, it's done. That if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. And how can we bring in a new age of joy and play and pleasure and prosperity plus with suffering and contraction and fear and lack? To bring in what we long for, we need to be living exemplary models for it. And that's brave in a world where you can prove, I can say, having my legal training, I could convince a choir of angels and a council of bishops that things are really bad. Like,
Mm,
I mean, I can look and just like, "Ooh, no." Or I can seek occasions to be delighted, as Wayne Dyer would say, and to make it joyful and fun and a game. And I was inspired a few years ago. Well, when COVID shut down everything and it was big
yeah.
time COVID, I had just separated from my husband like a year ago and moved out of the home that I thought I was going to come out in a pine box in into an apartment because I wanted to be around people. I'm patterned to people. That was March 16th of 2020. And we know what happened then.
Hmm. Yep.
So the universe had different plans for me in relationship to others. So for that first like 6 months, I was immersed in like a meditation, prayer, agony, inspiration tank. And I was praying for, I know that I have been given great blessings in this life. I have traveled the world multiple times over. I have been to Ephesus in Turkey. I have been to Machu Picchu. I was in Egypt last week in the Great Pyramid doing ceremonies of ascension after being on the Nile for a week and stopping at the temples of the gods and the goddesses and the Great Sphinx with a group of people. I mean, I've just been blessed with, I'm a Sagittarian, so I go and I receive, and I know about this supply. And I thought, what is the cause? Like, what is the root cause of the suffering in the world as I see it?
Mm.
And what I believe is that the current of imagination, which I think is our steering wheel for our divine power. I mean,
Mhm.
and let there be light is divine imagination, and there was light. When we come from the perspective of there not being enough to meet our basic needs plus, the imagination gets channeled in such heinous ways.
Mm.
And I was thinking, like, what's the originating cause of human beings leaving America, going to Africa, capturing people, anyone that survived on the hull of the ship, and then selling them in? Like, yes, there's all sorts of things about being off from the oneness, but also, like, why would we need that? Like, why would you imagine that you didn't have enough and then imagine the let's go do this horrible thing?
Right.
And I kept feeling that the perspective of there not being enough causes human beings to go half-cocked.
Mm.
Um, and that knowing that we have what we need plus is a foundation for harmony, for collaboration rather than competition. So I started something called the Galactic Council Women All Genders Welcome. And I say, because why the fudge not? Like, in this day and age, we are part of something greater. I know that pride and shame are bedfellows and they stymie us and hamper us. But in the positive current, it is dignity and humility. And boy, we can be anything. And I've called myself the Empress of Infinite Supply and Radiant Love of the Galactic Council Women All Genders Welcome, because why not? And I tell you, when I tell lawyers I used to practice with or people I went to college with that haven't seen me in years, like, Cindy, what are you doing now? And they're thinking like general counsel for, Pfizer, whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm the Empress of Infinite Supply and Radiant Love of the Galactic Council. I mean, they just hear like Charlie Brown, wah, wah, wah. I mean,
Right.
they'd rather hear, they could better understand I'm a pole dancer for money. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like
Right.
the shock. And I've gone through enough of my life that, I mean, what you say might have a temporary hurt, but it siphons out.
Yeah.
Um, that I'm willing to go for that and to unleash the childhood imagination, which if you and I were on a playground at 5 years old and we wanted to like make the world a better place, I'd say, hey, Gloria, let's play this game. And I'm like, okay, I'll be the Empress of Infinite Supply and Radiant Love. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll be the whatever you want to call yourself, and channel
Right.
this light language that's going to uplift everyone and everything as you sing it, just by the hearing of the vibration of it. We're not saying to each other that's stupid or none of that. But that, in the adults well-meaning trying to get us to learn, the imagination gets shunted into other people's limited imaginations. And then it's just now time for that to be unleashed. And
Mm.
then to be combined with our adult consciousness and our deeply caring spirit and heart. Oh, then we get to merge the heart of humanity with the soul of money, which I believe is a feminine force. And I believe that my manifesting wisdom on the planet comes to that foundational issue, is that the energy of money from the divine is a feminine aspect. Sure, there's masculine initiating in it, but the feminine, nurturing, mother bear, gestating, surrendering to something greater, meeting needs plus, is a feminine force, and it needs to be reclaimed and restored. So the Facebook group is a wonderful way to have people receive. I do prosperity catapult meditations every week and more from me. And also, one of the things I believe that the most unparalleled, unprecedented experience that I've had and am having is being a conduit for something called the Fierce Feminine Prosperity Power Program. And that's part of, you can have that if you're part of Gobs and Noodles. So let's have women. This is the title of the group. And then I talk a lot, so please help me simmer down a little.
It's okay. It's all right.
Women, and then I put an asterisk, and the asterisk is, or anyone, regardless of gender expression, who respects and reveres the feminine principle, the female body, and the energy of mother. So women, asterisks, The only one male so far in the group is someone I practice law with, and I love it. It's like women and Elliot, are part of this group so far. Women attracting and mastering gobs of money and oodles of power, uplifting themselves in the world, because that is fun. I want gobs of money. I actually have gobs of money and oodles of power. I have been cultivating that for this lifetime. I've been given activations by the sacred feminine initiation of abundance. And my mission is to share and help others know how to do that with the joy and the fun of it. Because if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. Like, I was a top trial lawyer. I never lost a case. And I can tell you what I got out of that was irritable bowel syndrome, terror on a Sunday night. I mean, it was not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
imagine. Wow. I, I'm intrigued by this really feminine aspect of it. That intrigues me. So, um, what does that look like in practical terms?
Okay. In practical terms, this is how I break it down for people. In this age, if we think about the global economy, there's no way my baby brain can figure out what's going on, even though I have been trained with really high vibrational people in finance and in the energy of finance to know how to manage and grow money. Like, I know that, and I follow what's going on in the world, but it is such a convoluted, complex, ununderstandable by any one human brain system, or at least my brain.
Mm.
So when I get to that place where my mind can't understand it, I'm like, excellent, Cindy, this is the job for the soul. And when I drop to the level of my soul and I think of the energy of money, so I would say this is the first thing to do when we're understanding the energy of money. Of course, money in itself is whatever the greater is, I say, doesn't have external genitalia. It's just like, but
Right.
there's active energy and receptive energy.
Yeah.
And then we see that in masculine and feminine. You plant the seed and then the seed grows, and in the
Right.
act of creation in a woman's womb. And so the energy of supply, or what we need for our bodies, there is that initiating energy. And I'd love to use the example of the sperm and the egg. There is that activating force and push. And then what happens? The woman's body. I mean, I really knew God was real after I had my first child, because I just had sex and didn't die for 9 months and she was born. I mean, like, that was a true miracle for me, that happened on its own. That growing and gestating and nurturing by just the fact that I existed, my body did that. And then my body had milk, and then my instinct was so much care and love. And I know this is different for different people in different ways. Sharing my experience of it, I was amazed at understanding the power of loving and caring when I had my offspring. And they're fully grown now, and they're on their own journey, and it's not always Shangri-La. I mean, it was wonderful, but I gotta tell you, it's not easy being a mother to millennials, because I'm wrong a lot about everything, in that kind
Well,
of
of
way.
course. I know. I can relate.
Yes. But that energy. So then there is what happens on this planet. The active principle, or the masculine principle in wholeness, acts with unconditional love. It protects and preserves out of reverence, not because the feminine's weaker, because she's magnificent. Her body
Right.
moves in time with the moon and the tides and has new life. And I say, being a menopausal woman, the fact that I function, I'm starting a hot flash right now. I think there should be a team of people throwing rose petals on my path. Like, what, you're going through that and you're functioning at this level? Oh my God, you're amazing. But the masculine principle is that. And then the feminine principle surrenders to that and gestates and nurtures and has patience and is just that wisdom of the panoply of what's needed for new life to grow by virtue of our very body's wisdom, and then in the mind. And so on the planet, when the masculine is unhealthy and distorted, it's so full of pressure. It's just over pressure. It's harsh, it's acidic, it's aggressive, it doesn't get to rest. And I don't like the term toxic with anything. I like
Yeah.
the term wounded. So I would say the highly wounded masculine, which, by the way, I have a ton of masculine in me. You don't become a trial lawyer and do what you're doing like with this without a lot of activating energy.
Yeah.
But the highly wounded masculine is depleted and overpressured and just runs amok, thinking they're taking care of, but really mowing over. And I think the global financial system, which we just know is run predominantly by men,
Right.
there's highly wounded energy in it. And I'm not even saying that it's nefarious, it's just misguided. And it really emasculates them from doing their job of, and I'll use like the insemination analogy again. You have initiated the process, protect and preserve and revere the feminine as she grows it.
Mm,
And there's not so much of that.
yeah.
I was just, as I said, in Egypt, and all the men have all the jobs at what I saw, except for the massage therapist that I saw was a
Mm,
woman. And they're the people that are cleaning the rooms and making the food and doing everything in that
mhm.
society. And there's no judgment with that. And there was beautiful men there and really deeply caring men. But I noticed something different, never having had that experience before. There was just a level of intuition that was off, even in the room when it was made up. Like this man that came in, like he folded my clothes and my underwear and put them in my suitcase. I'm like, no, don't touch that.
Boundaries. Yeah.
Boundaries. And my essential oils that I have in a certain way, like cleaned under it and like reorganized it the way he thought it should go. It's like, oh, don't touch the master's work with the vetiver and all of that. And then the clothes that I wore in the plane that I was going to wash because of all of that, like the guy, God bless him, took my wrap or my cape and made it into a bow on my pillow on my bed. I'm like, what have you just done? So,
Oh my goodness.
so there is that. And so the feminine, the highly wounded feminine is parasitic. She's weaker. She doesn't know. She becomes very worried and fearful and in her own ways, not so great. And I've certainly have had that too. And then I tried to make up for it by being overly aggressive, which is you highly wounded for one, for highly wounded other.
Yeah.
And now
Doesn't.
bringing it into balance. So as I come to know more about the energy of money, the fact that any child on this planet starves is because it's not being and it's not in its whole feminine force.
Mm,
And the one last thing I'll say about this is that I've used this analogy. If 100 women were to get together in the city of Philadelphia and then 100 men, and now my youngest identifies as non-gender and trans. So 100 people of newer gender fluidities, let's make 3 groups now because
okay.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Right.
We're to get together and decide how to allot what people call money. Money is just what people agree is power. It's emphatically not a real thing. It's what
Right.
we agree. It's how we quantify and limit the infinite supply of the universe and Mother Earth, who can feed us all plus.
Hmm.
But if we were to decide how to allot $40 billion of power agreements or squiggles on paper or on screen, as I call them, would we build Lincoln Financial Field for the Eagles? Would we feed all the children and revitalize the educational system so they're going safely in wonderful environments and the teachers are getting what they need? Or would we not do those things? And what would those groups of people vote for? Or the people of the newer gender classifications and none, would we sponsor programs that would really help people come into their true authority and to bring harmony and dissolve hate? And I can tell you what happened. I don't know how many years ago, it was like 15 years ago. There was no such a council, but the $40 billion went to build Lincoln Financial Field.
Mm,
And the mother in me, I was like, I believe that you can have Lincoln Financial Field and feed the children.
hmm.
I mean, it's like a breastfeeding mother. I've had friends that have had triplets and twins. There's just going to be more supply. So we'll
Exactly.
need
Yeah.
it. It's like supply and demand.
Right.
So that aspect of what women have, and I also know that it is still dangerous and very deep in a societal construct that for women to own money and power, have these power agreements, and a big kind of like you don't know what you're doing. And I've had that with financial advisors. You don't know what you're doing, and talked me out of something last year that cost me squiggles until I was just like, oh no, like this is, I know how to be with this. And yeah, so that has been what the inspiration is coming to me, to reclaim and restore the soul of money as a feminine force, which takes the pressure off the masculine. It doesn't mean there's not activating things with money. Money does do things, but the real nature of it is to nurture and nourish this precious human form so that we can meet Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and then go to the truly greatness, like in this moment with you, meeting our spiritual needs of collaborating in the oneness and basking in it and sharing it.
Mm. Wow. That was a lot, and I love it.
It's a lot.
Um, And I so appreciate it because I think it was a really great explanation of it because I know that I've had my own issues with money over the years, and but I've also experienced lately just some wonderful abundance that has come my way, and it's not even necessarily monetary. It's just an abundance of good things, even coming my way, and I think it's maybe that sometimes I think also we get hung up on the actual, squiggles sometimes and realize not thinking that there's other ways um, that we can be abundant and that it's not necessarily but money does come in handy because it is it is the thing that we use to get things with, to buy food, to have a roof over our head and things like that. um I wanted to ask you one other thing because I'm and again, I think this is something that I've dealt with myself is, how does, like, forgiveness, play in here with our, relationship to money and that?
Just working with a client, playing with a client. I mean, work is it work? Is it play? It is playing with a
Right.
client. Not in a sexual way that way, but with a client about this very issue because there are chakras that have to do with this business of creating what we need plus in this realm. And they're the basic chakra, the root chakra, the heart chakra, and the ajna right between the eyes. And forgiveness is a hallmark of that. This money is a way that we can concretize the power of loving in
Mm,
some rudimentary way. And without forgiveness, without loving kindness, without mercy, without compassion, that we're just going to be held back as a species, whether we can prove it or not. We're
mm,
going to be held back. And forgiveness it's not acquiescing to terrible things happening over and over again. It's
right.
just having a greater perspective and choosing not to let that energy bind your future steps. And so forgiveness, when we forgive, what happens literally in our energetic structure is that our heart chakra, which is so necessary for us to enjoy life. Like I might have a lot of squiggles, but I don't like go to sleep with my credit card and feel like all warm and fuzzy. I mean, it's
Right.
not doing the job for, it's not like, my bank statement and I are having a nice meal together via candlelight. That's not happening. It doesn't really lead to happiness. It just leads to give you the ability so you don't have to distract yourself in meeting your basic needs, plus to be able to enjoy life, which
Right.
everyone is our soul right. So that that is physically related to how we receive things. And then the basic chakra, which has everything to do with feeling secure in this life. And sometimes when we have like a traumatic birth story or we come into a difficult environment, traumatized like that, we don't come fully in. And the root chakra isn't going to be able to help it either. And then how can we direct our ajna, which is a center of directing will or creative power, if we don't feel that this is a good place, we don't feel that we're supported, and we are holding on to what's happened to us in the past because we're trying in some way to protect it from happening in the future. So
Mm,
there is no way forward for individuals or humanity. I call it being a forgiveness ninja. Like I have to forgive myself like 20,000 times. That's an exaggeration in numbers, but a lot for the thoughts that come in,
yeah.
and forgive others for not being who I want them to be, which is none of my business anyway. No one's job to be who I want them to be.
Yeah.
So that forgiveness ninja energy, I think like Cato and the Inspector Clouseau, like chopping at every moment to keep you on your toes about when you might need to just say, okay, I'm going to let that go and I'm going to grow from it. So I think forgiveness, that is just such a wise and important question because otherwise we're dragging chains
Mm,
and balls and we might think they're legitimate, but they're still going to hold us back.
yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. I want to change gears just slightly here, and because I love asking this question of my guests. So, what are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about something I experienced yesterday for the first time in my 58 years of life. I was driving back from the grocery store into my apartment complex, and I had this feeling of being really mature around the issue of romantic love. I mean, I have sought that outside of myself as something to fulfill me since I mean, 7 years old was day by day, but like 8 years old was, who are you going to marry, Cindy? And my answer was Jesus Christ or my father. It was always that. And I was always told you can't marry either of those. And I'm like, well, then I'm screwed, because those are the only two guys I know and really like. But this longing for a compliment in the masculine form has led me to be codependent, or to, to turn a blind eye, or to act in ways that aren't good for who I'm with. And I had something overtake me. I'm not dating right now. I'm on a hiatus. And I just had this feeling of faith in God and the universe bringing us together. And there was nothing I had to do. That is new. And I'm curious about how God, Great Spirit, Universe is going to delight me with that, because I do feel that if it's in your bailiwick and longing, to have that experience serves not just you and your partner, but humanity. And whether it's male, male, female, female, and non-gender, not that, but to have a complement to experience the pleasure in the body and sexual pleasure, and how that is a potent creative force, and how it's representative of something more. I am so curious about this lifetime, and that now the secure maturity to let myself be delighted. Yeah, it was an extraordinary feeling. And I'm so glad you asked me that, because it's fun to talk about it out loud, because it's pretty much here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then you talk it out, and then it sort of ignites the attraction anyway, and that the universe is like, oh, okay, well, she's really is kind of interested in this. All right, well, we'll work on delivering that.
Well, thank you, Gloria. Thank you for asking that question. And she's not needy, and like from the place
Yeah.
of lack, it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's a thing. Bring it
Oh,
on in the right way, in the right time.
absolutely. And that is the mature way to be about it. So very good.
Thank you. Your little girl's growing up, Gloria. It only took 58 human years in this lifetime.
I know, I know. Well, and I'm only a couple ahead of you, so there you go. Um, is there anything else that I should have asked you about in relation to you, money, life, maybe your podcast? We still didn't even talk about that.
One thing,
What have you? What would you like to share yet?
because I have such an amazing creative force team of highlight amazing people, was I'm good at doing this, but I tell you, making sure that the camera work for the StreamYard at my age, that's the challenge. And my team they're in the Philippines, California, New Jersey. So nobody's right here with me right now.
Yeah.
And so I was just texting one of them. It's like, how do I tell people about my app again? Like, what are the words that I say when I'm being interviewed on a podcast about it? And I love that about me. I just think that's freaking delightful, that, and you and me both, I mean, you might have more technological savvy than I do, but that we're doing this in this forum. We are brave, amazing women to be doing this. So I appreciate that. So this is what Helen Bradley, she's the connector, or the Galactic Midwife. That's her superhero name. Anyone that joins the Galactic Council of Women, All Genders Welcome, can get a superhero name and play with it. You just join and receive. It's like $44 a month. I say we are the actual guardians of the galaxy, and the energy, what happens with people is amazing. But this is how so we did a free app, and the app is called Prosper Plus. And this is exactly what Helen told me to say. You can download the app in the Apple App Store, or visit prosperplus.app to get it on any mobile device, because it's on Google too. And there is a free expansive prosperity for life training. And prosper means to thrive, flourish, grow, and all of that. And I did that because there are people that aren't able to circulate squiggles or power agreements because they're in that place of being stymied. And then there are people that the Galactic Council of Women is meant to be uber affordable. And it is a global network of just joining and receiving in the energy of it. $44 a month is affordable for most human beings, or maybe Americans, or $444 a year. And that's the Prosper Plus Premium. So people can upgrade to that. And also on the app is every live stream I do. I have a Prosper Plus YouTube channel and podcast. I mean, we're kindred spirits in that. And thank God for my team, because once again, I can channel the infinite energy of the universe, but with the technology, I'm better. I'm grateful to have that. So I invite you, dear wonderful listener, to download that and to listen to that. And if you feel so called, and to also, this is how you join the Facebook community, and it's for all genders. And you can join our Gobs and Oodles Uplifting Facebook group by going to facebook.com/group/prosper plus. And of course, just contacting me in the world, Cindy James, you'll get that. Because I, like you, feel I like this about a healthy ego. So if I think I'm doing anything, I'm going to be screwed, because then when people like it and don't like it, I'm on a seesaw. But when I know that this is what I've come here to do, is my profession, there is a sense of security and satisfaction and fulfillment that isn't like, oh, I'm so great or I suck so bad. It's just like, it's a serene, like the true north. It's like, yep, it's true north. I have no choice but to do this. And then being able to share it continues that positive pleasure that doesn't bind us and allows us to actually not compete or even just cooperate, but
Right.
collaborate in the light, like
Mm.
we are doing right now.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you sharing all of those wonderful resources. And for those of you listening, you'll have that in the show notes. So don't worry. Because I know sometimes it's like, what? What did she say? In fact, I'm going to have to go back in and like actually re listen to this when we're done so that I can write it down and put it in the show notes. But I appreciate it. Um, this has been delightful, and I really enjoyed having you on. And I'm so glad that we have connected, and I look forward to further interactions with you because, yeah, I'm all about, as you say, collaborating. And I was just texting someone yesterday that I had met over the weekend, and said, yeah, can we? She lives locally, and it's like, yeah, I'd love to, like, grab a coffee, and because I'm all about friendships right now. I'm really just, um, I wouldn't say starved, but I'm like, I really am seeking to make friendships with women. I've heard so often people say that, as we get more mature and older, that it's hard for women to make friends. But I would challenge that, because if you want to, there are people out there that want to be friends, and you just need to reach out to them. If nobody's knocking on your door, then you go knock on theirs. And
Thank you for
yeah.
saying that, because what I threw into the Nile in one of the ceremonies about letting go of was the feeling of loneliness.
Mm,
And the perspective of loneliness. And I say the greatest obstacle to women uplifting the world, especially deeply caring, conscious people like me and you and so many others, is feeling separate from one another and not being able to enjoy the simple fruits of humanity together. The goal is really not to be spiritual, it's to be natural. And of
yeah.
course, that's going to include spiritual. And if we're not really enjoying and loving each other up and having fun, however we do it,
Right.
I think we're not whole, and it touches my heart because I long for that too. And this has been a blessing and a pleasure and a great gift, especially in this moment in time in my personal life,
Mm,
and I think in the world. Thank you, Gloria, for
mm.
your great strength and creative spirit, and for inviting me on today.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Cindy. I am very blessed to have had you on as well. And I know everybody listening and watching today has been blessed as well. I'm sure they have been. And if you have been, let us know about it. Either reach out to Cindy or definitely reach out to me. Feel free to do that. I love hearing from you. And it's wonderful because sometimes we sort of feel like we're in a silo here, and it is nice to know that other people are watching and listening and getting value, and even if it's just a quick thumbs up on the YouTube video, that works too. It's okay.
It's
So,
just a nice way to say you exist and I appreciate you. I love you
yeah.
too. I mean, and that's the infinity sign. So I know that's why we ask for it, not to make ourselves feel better, but just to build the network of
Mm,
strength and hope in the world, and
yeah.
for people to affirm they matter by just saying, yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, or I didn't like that, and whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just so we know you're out there. It's helpful. So again, thank you so much for being here. I also thank all of you for watching and listening, and I encourage you to share this. And if you did get value out of it today. And in closing, as always, I just encourage you to go out and today and every day and just live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.